Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the rundown, the FPL rundown for game week 2/3. We're going to take a little look at, let's see what we're going to take a little look at tonight. That is what you see in there, ladies and gentlemen, is my potential wildcard 3 draft. Just a little tease here while we get going. Well, I'll give you a little glimpse of my face as well until I forgot I needed a quick drink before we kicked off, so apologies for the wait, guys. Get them scores in the chat. I know I have been saying to everyone, I've got a few on Twitter that we're going to run through tonight, but get them in the chat. Let me see them high scores. I know most of the people in here will have outscored me at this point, so definitely get them in there and we'll chat through them as we go. Right, okay. So let's start off with who captained Haaland this weekend then, and who didn't. I know I did. 34 points. Maybe the triple captain should have been used, but game week 2 just fell very early. But yeah, it seemed like a great decision for everyone who did. But I think all in all, I'm pretty pleased. Let me bring my game week 2 team up there for you, and let's have a little chat through this. So my game week 2 team looks a little bit like this. Let me put that in there and focus that for you guys. So my game week 2 team, I had Henderson in goal with 1 point. A back 3 of Hall, Robinson and Porro with 1, 7 and 6 points respectively. A midfield of Nkunku with 1 point. Bruno Fernandes with 2. We'll get on to him in a moment. Saka with 6. Luis Diaz finally coming through after me banging on about him all pre-season with 14 points. And then Rodgers, who seemingly you would think he's the most transferred in man this week, but he got a nice 2 points, an excellent 2 points if that's a thing. He played fantastic for Villa from a footballing point of view. Obviously had a couple of chances to deliver for FPL, had Watkins not let him down on a couple of occasions. And then up front we had Isak with 2 points, who is quietly going about stinking up my team, but we'll not mention him at the moment. And then Erling Haaland, 34 points, a hat-trick against Ipswich, and really just what you pay the 15 million for, really. That's what everyone who does have him in the teams and captained him and triple captained him, that's why we paid the 15 million, and we needed that to make sure he was worth it, because obviously this weekend a lot of other premiums did bang as well. So obviously Son with his brace, Palmer went wild, even Salah chipped in with 10 points, and yeah, so big weekend, really good weekend of FPL. Most people had good scores. It would have been really difficult this weekend to come away with a poor score, because there was multiple combinations that worked, and really good. So let's have a look at them scores in the chat. Sam there on 92 points because of his early wildcard that he keeps banging on about, but that's great. Obviously he pulled the plug on it on the early wildcard, pulled it out the bag in game week 2, and yeah, now let's see how far you can go with that wildcard team. I am really interested in the game week 3 wildcard, I will be honest. Obviously I think a lot of people seem to be pulling the trigger now, because I think the thinking is now that potentially maybe Salah and 2 other premium midfielders is the way to go, with some mid-priced forwards, maybe an Ollie Watkins in there, and a cheap forward, João Pedro, Armstrong, and then kind of a back 3 that's built of Trent, an Arsenal defender, Raya in goal, and then maybe 2 4.5, something like that seemingly is what people are going for on that game week 3 wildcard at the minute from the drafts I've seen. So really positive, as a really good weekend. I think I jumped 1.3 million places, which is crazy, but that's what to expect at this time of the season. It was obviously a green arrow for me. Really happy with my week. It wasn't a massive score, but we keep moving forward, really. So let's talk about these problems. So get in the chat there, guys. Tell us what problems you've got in your FPL team at the minute, if any. If you're looking to make any transfers this week, what you're doing, are you rolling? For those guys who wildcarded in game week 2, are we looking at some moves? Have we already pulled the trigger? While I talk through a couple of my problems and you can give me some feedback on mine. So Henderson in goal, I think the only goalkeeper outside of Henderson that seems to be decent at the minute is Raya, and obviously a lot of people on wildcard are going for Raya. I think he is one for me that at the moment, while I'm not looking to wildcard, he says at the beginning of the stream, let's see where we end up at the end. But yes, Ray is probably the only replacement for Henderson because the rest of the goalkeepers don't seem very good at the moment. Hall, he instantly became a problem at the weekend with the benching against Bournemouth. But Newcastle did seem to play better when Hall come on from the highlights I'd seen. Not that it was mainly down to him probably, but they definitely seemed better with him on the pitch. So that could be something moving forward, and maybe he does get his place back against Spurs at the weekend, with them probably being less physical and Newcastle maybe having a bit more of the ball in that game. Maybe Hall keeps his place. That's probably an optimistic view to have on Hall, but we've got Sam in the chat. He's our resident Newcastle United fan, so obviously he can give us some feedback on Hall and what he thought of the game. Robinson was my transfer in last week for Kwanzaa. Really solid, 7 points. Got the assist. Yeah, just a good solid pick I think at the moment. Fixtures are good. No real issues there. Happy to keep him if needs be, and obviously with no wildcard he will be staying in there. Porro again, just kind of delivers as an FPL pick, whether it was attacking returns in game week 1 or clean sheet in game week 2, which is a surprise for Tottenham, but they were playing that dire Everton side which just really struggle to play football. I think they might be the only team in the Premier League at the minute that aren't trying to get the ball down and really play some football, but I don't think they've got the players to do that at the moment. So really didn't trouble Spurs at all. Obviously Son got his double there, but yeah, Porro come away with a clean sheet, so really happy with that. Rodgers, as I mentioned before, really solid pick. Everyone seems to be moving to him at the moment, downgrading Nkunku and downgrading 5.5s, your Jacob Murphys and people like that to Rodgers. Good fixtures, seems nailed. I think I seen today that Villa are not going after Sterling, so kind of happy-ish with Rodgers at the moment. I am worried about Champions League when it comes in, because I do think there will be some rotation, but he looks nailed in that Villa side at the moment. Diaz, yeah, Luis Diaz delivered big time at the weekend. I've been banging on about him all pre-season, and for the guys who've been in the streams and been on Twitter, I've kind of been a strong Luis Diaz supporter. All pre-season really, I felt that he now has the chance to deliver under Slot. I still think that left wing position is his, despite people saying that Gakpo may come in. But Diaz seems to be delivering at the moment. A goal and assist, 3 bonus, 14 points. Top returner outside of Haaland this weekend for me. So yeah, really happy with Diaz at the moment, and happy to roll into the United fixtures. The United fixture and then a couple of nice fixtures afterwards. Bukayo Saka, 6 points. I think he is really just a solid FPL pick. 10 million. Know what you're getting on penalties. Yeah, not really much to talk about Saka. He's kind of that consistent. I think I would like to see him start making that jump to maybe the higher single digit returns and low double figures. Not often does he kind of come away with a 10, 12, 14 pointer, basically kind of similar to what Salah's done the last weekend. I think he could bridge that gap. I'm just not sure if he can, but he always seems to be in there around 6 to 9 and really kind of delivers in that range consistently, and that's why he was up there last season and has been for the last couple of years. But would like to see a couple of kind of more double-digit returns on the basis. Bruno, right, let's come on to the two problems. Bruno Fernandes. Now, I mentioned on Twitter yesterday that he's a problem, and someone kind of said he's not, and I think that is kind of the opinion on Bruno Fernandes as an FPL option when people talk about him and when people have got them in their teams, because, well, he's not a problem because he plays mostly 90 minutes. I know he come off early this week, but he plays mostly 90 minutes. He's on penalties. He's the main creator for United. He's been playing in that false nine. He's kind of an assist and expected assist, expected goal magnet really at the moment for United, because everything seems to go through him. But he isn't delivering at the moment. He isn't kind of putting them chances away, and obviously we kind of had the robbed assist with the United offside for the winner against Fulham. So, sorry, not against Fulham, against Brighton at the weekend. Obviously, with Xerxes being in that offside position. But I'm more of the opinion that he's a long-term problem potentially. He's a small problem at the moment, but the potential to get kind of bigger as the game weeks go on. I think if I don't wildcard this week, there is a potential that I bench Bruno Fernandes for the Liverpool game and keep him and hold him into Southampton, even with him due to drop in price, I think, tonight. So, yeah, again, I'll come on to my Game Week 3 team in a moment and kind of look at wildcard teams and things like that and where Bruno Fernandes fits and all of that. And then Nkunku, who is, without doubt, I think the biggest issue in the team at the moment. 1 point at the weekend, cameo appearance. Chelsea scored 6. Now, if someone had told me Chelsea scored 6 before the game, I'd have fancied something in the region of Haaland's 34 points for Nkunku. But, obviously, benched after, I think he got 60 minutes or 58 minutes in the Europa League in midweek, so, or around 60 minutes anyway. So, I think it's really interesting to see that he's now kind of droppable. I think everyone was thinking maybe he gets 60 to 70 minutes every game and starts every game, and now we've seen him be benched. Is that a sign that he can not play 3 games in a week? So now, because he's had his rest, he can come in and play midweek again and then play at the weekend. So there is part of me that thinks if I don't wildcard, could I escape with Nkunku and see if we could get through this, maybe through midweek, and assess at the weekend. Maybe Maresca says something, maybe there's an injury, something that kind of gives us more clarity around his minutes moving forward, especially in the Premier League. So he's a problem. We'll come on to talk about him. Yeah, River says in the chat, it's Palmer or Palmer for a Chelsea pick, and I think that's the easiest way to sum up Nkunku and Chelsea at the moment. If your name's not Palmer, kind of try and stay away from them. And I think that's true. If I was picking again, I would stay away from Nkunku, obviously knowing what we know now. But having him in my team, I just don't know. If I don't wildcard, is he an immediate sell when I can potentially bench him? Yeah, I'm just not too sure. Isak up top, 2 points. Newcastle didn't look great at all, really, away from home, and we do kind of have this kind of running thing with Newcastle's attack from last season, where at home they're sparkling, and then away from home they do kind of struggle. Anthony Gordon was the epitome of that last season. I think all of his hauls were at home, and then away from home he really struggled to pick up any returns. So maybe we're seeing some of that, but maybe it was just an off game for Newcastle. And while Isak again is similar to Bruno, he's a small problem that could potentially could potentially become bigger, but he has the potential to deliver against Tottenham at the weekend. Tottenham have been a vulnerable defence. We've seen that in the first game of the season against Leicester. While they come away with a clean sheet from Everton, I think against a kind of an elite attack like Newcastle, they have got the potential to be undone, and Isak could come away with 10, 12 points and maybe a goal, an assist or a brace. That's definitely not outside the realms of possibility. So he's definitely no wildcard. He is a hold for me for the moment. Happy to roll with Isak, and then obviously Haaland. While he's probably the best thing about my side at the moment, he is also obviously the most expensive one. So he is blocking me from players like Palmer, Salah, Son, and even the City midfielders KDB and Foden. Obviously, I know a few people did go to Foden at the weekend and got hurt by that because he wasn't even in the squad, I don't think. So interesting moving forward with them, but City looked fantastic against Ipswich. Ipswich seemingly really struggled with City once they kind of turned it on, and it was almost like they'd angered the beast really with City, and really kind of as soon as that goal went in from Schmodics, I thought we could be on to something, and within a couple of minutes obviously City are back level ahead, and then all of a sudden 3-1 up, and it kind of looks like game over within 10 or so minutes. So yeah, really interesting one. Team's not in a horrendous place, but as I said, the potential for wholesale changes are there, and yet really indecisive at the moment as to what to do moving forward. So guys, get in the chat, tell me what you think. Who are the problems that need to go? How many problems do you think it requires for a wildcard? Is it just one because of Nkunku? Is it two with Nkunku and Hall? Or is it time for a full restructure in terms of moving away from Haaland and to them premium mids? Because that's what we've seen work really well so far. So definitely one to look at. And yeah, I think wildcard's massive. In terms of the Chelsea assets, obviously we've seen, I think last night we seen Madueke rise in price again after he fell in price, I think in the last week. So he went down to 6.4 and is back up to 6.5 now. Potential for me there. I don't. Again, it's back to kind of what River said before, which is if he's not named Palmer, he's not worth the pick really. So I think the one thing that stuck out to me as well after the game, which a lot of people talked about, was the XG numbers. The XG numbers were kind of low for Chelsea, and I think it was around 1.5, something like that, and then scoring 6 goals on the back of that. So I'd be really kind of suspect that performance was repeatable, I suppose, is the right way. And Wolves haven't had the greatest start of the season, so let's kind of see where that plays out first before jumping on the likes of Madueke, Felix, and anyone not named Palmer, basically. In terms of my bench, River, I know you've just asked in the chat there, so my bench is Solanke. Let me have a little look. Solanke, I can't remember who's on my bench now. I've got Solanke, and then Ben Johnson, great Ben Johnson, who got an assist at the weekend against the great Manchester City, so obviously Ben Johnson's always an option. And then we've got Ezri Konsa as well. So Konsa's likely, with no wildcard, Konsa's likely to come in this week for me and play. And then also we would have potentially Solanke back. If Solanke's back for Newcastle, I would love to play him, and I think Ange would be desperate to get him back. So there is potential there for me to play Solanke and Konsa, and that's where I'd be looking to bench Fernandes potentially, or potentially bench Nkunku, play Fernandes, and yeah, so there's a few options there for me. So definitely there's some great options for Chelsea. I think obviously Neto, I didn't mention Neto, and he's a really top option for Chelsea, but yeah, I think he is Palmer's the one, isn't it? It's pure and simple on Chelsea. I don't want to talk too much about them because they all seem in a void at the moment. The defence looks suspect, and I think they're going to be in a lot of games that are involved with high scoring. I know 6-2 is a bit of an anomaly, but maybe some 3-2s, some 4-3s, and some high score draws as well. Sam says, defensively you won't get much. Don't see Henderson, Porro keeping a clean sheet, Robinson's decent, Hall if he starts. Konza will be playing, so you mentioned playing Konza if I don't wildcard. Konza will be playing over Hall, so let me show you what my Game Week 3 team would potentially look like. If I can. So it would be Henderson in goal, it would be Porro, Robinson and Konza at the back three, which is Robinson against Ipswich, Porro Newcastle and Konza against Leicester. My midfield will be Bruno Fernandes at home to Liverpool, Saka at home to Brighton, Luis Diaz away to Man United and Rodgers away to Leicester. And then up top that would be Haaland away to West Ham, captained, Isak at home to Tottenham, and Solanke against Newcastle. Now if Solanke's not available, I would have Nkunku on my bench, Johnson and Hall effectively. So I could, if Solanke's not available, I could play Johnson against Fulham at home, but then that is Johnson and Robinson. The other option is obviously transferring Nkunku out and bring in someone else, maybe Smith Rowe, Sammy Smodics. Ipswich have got a great run of form at the moment, so I'm all ears for Nkunku replacements. I think Smith Rowe is my favourite at the moment. I've only got one free transfer this week, so it would just be the one I'd be using. So it would probably, if I'm not wildcarding, it will probably be Nkunku who's leaving the team. As I said, Smith Rowe is my favourite. Schmodics is probably second favourite. Ipswich have got a good run of fixtures. He scored a lot of goals in the Championship and could be key to that Ipswich side. But again, I'm not quite sure on who's going to be nailed in that side, because obviously Jack Clark's come in, Schmodics is in there, Amari Hutchinson's in there. But yeah, really some really good decisions I think to make. We've got potentially Minter and the Brighton boys who are a replacement for Nkunku long term, but they play Arsenal this weekend, so probably not the best replacement for Nkunku. I think someone just said in the chat there, yeah, River said Nkunku out for ESR. I'm kind of happy at this stage to take price drops. Now I know people are someone said in the chat there about Solanke drops tonight. I'm not really too fussed about price drops at this point, I think, because the options I'm looking at specifically to move off are kind of lower in price than the ones I'm selling, so happy to kind of wait for the news really and see if anything does crop up in the week before making the decision. I think if it was a move I was going to be priced out of, then potentially I would move early, but I'm looking at kind of 6 million and below as Nkunku replacements, so happy to obviously swallow the price changes where needs be. But yeah, I think happy to wait on Solanke. I'm hoping he plays this weekend. We obviously had an issue at Bournemouth all last season where he didn't miss a game, but he had an ongoing issue and then he played the next week, so I'm hoping with missing this week that he gets himself back in a position to play, and I think he is obviously someone Ange really wants to get in that team on a consistent basis. So yeah, interesting to see, and I think he'd want him in there against that Newcastle side. Obviously with Newcastle being a good side, I think he'd want Solanke in there if he is even 75% probably. So yeah, I think happy to take some suggestions on Nkunku transfers out, but he's more than likely going to be my my one out. Potentially for Smith Rowe at the moment, he's the one I'm really looking at if we are really talking about if I had to make it now, it would be Smith Rowe. Whether that could change, obviously, as I said, I'm happy to kind of wait for news to arrive and make a decision as and when then. Let's have a little look. Why was it Hall? Why was it the Hall didn't start? I think, did Eddie Howe come out and say something about Lloyd was preferred to Hall because of his height potentially? Because obviously Newcastle were missing Shah in there. I'm not too sure if he did come out and say that, or if I seen that on Twitter actually, that someone was suggesting that was the reason why he started. But I think Newcastle looked better when Hall came on. From the highlights I seen, Newcastle definitely seemed more fluid when Hall was on there at left back. But yeah, tell me if I'm wrong, guys, because I didn't watch the full game, but that was my kind of my 2 pence, if you like, on the Newcastle game and their options. Is there anyone at 6.5 people like? I know there's Leon Bailey, but I've got Rodgers at the moment. I'd kind of be priced out anyway at this point, but one to look at really, I think. If people have got any options at 6.5 that they think might be decent. If not, I'm not really sure there is. Maybe Szoboszlai at Liverpool, but with Diaz in the side, I don't think I'd be playing both anyway. I think that would be for sure. Matoma. The issue with Matoma is obviously he's gone up to 6.6 now. So, and then Kunku's dropped, so he is kind of out the price range at the moment. But Matoma is probably someone I am looking at if I do wildcard this week, because I could bench him in game week 3 and then have him for his nice fixtures in 4 and 5. Gibbs White at 6.5, yeah, maybe at home in game week 3. Gibbs White just never excites me as an FPL pick. I don't know what that is, but he never really kind of seems to be the pick that I suppose I kind of want him to be, really. But yeah, I think he's a good option. Obviously, I think he scored at the weekend. His XG just never kind of really sticks out, but yeah, maybe he's one I should consider because he clearly gets the business done for Forest. I think he's got the same stats from the last 2 seasons, hasn't he? Like 12. Is it 12 goals, 5 assists, something like that, or 5 goals, 12 assists in both seasons? So definitely someone who's on the radar. Savinho does look good for Chelsea. He is risky for minutes, especially when we haven't seen Foden back as of yet. Obviously Bernardo and KDB have really been playing central at the moment, with Doku and Savinho on the wings. Will be interesting to see when Grealish and Foden are back in there, and maybe Gundo comes back in to play one of them central roles with KDB and Bernardo, and all of a sudden Bernardo might get pushed wide. Again, I'm just not sure on the City midfield. KDB's obviously nailed, at least until Champions League starts. And Foden really last season became nailed, made a lot of starts, played a lot of games, scored a lot of points. So I do think once he gets back in that side, surely he's got to be nailed, but yeah, maybe not at the same time. So let me have a little look, guys. Let me bring up what would be my game week 3 side at the moment. See if you guys can see that. So this is kind of what the game week 3 side would look like if Solanke is fit. So We've got Henderson in goal against Chelsea away. Again, not great, but as I said, not really happy with any of the goalkeepers bar Raya, so happy to keep Henderson in there. Back three would be Robinson against Ipswich, Konza against Leicester, and Porro against Newcastle. Midfield would be Fernandes at home to Liverpool, Saka at home to Brighton, Luis Diaz away to Man United, Rodgers away to Leicester. And then front three would be Solanke away to Newcastle, Haaland captain away to West Ham, and Isak at home to Tottenham. This again would be, if Solanke's fit, I could bench Nkunku. If we get more messages from Postecoglou to say he's not fit, obviously Nkunku could be out for someone 6 million or below, and he could play. I could roll it. There is a world here where I could roll the transfer into game week 4 now. Thinking about my plan, it may give me a way to potentially look at Salah in game week 4 potentially, sorry, if I roll the transfer, but I think Nkunku is probably just going to be a sell for me this week on the basis that Solanke may not be fit. Someone's just said in the chat there, don't see them risking Solanke before the international break. I think that's fair. The only reason why I think they could risk Solanke if he's fit is because of the international break. So I'm spinning it the other way because he's in my team. So if he's 75% fit, could we see him get 70 minutes and then them give Solanke 2 weeks to recover for the next game? It's a big game against Newcastle, who they are potentially competing with for European spots and things like that. So it would be a nice 3 points for Ange to get before the international break. So I still think there is a world where he could play. But yeah, I think Ange did mention after the international break. So there is always, obviously, I think right now it looks more than likely he will miss out. So that would mean Nkunku being sold to someone and then starting over Solanke. I think Ange said something about the international break. Yeah, exactly. Ange did mention the international break. So as I said, I do think right now it's looking more than likely, but we have seen Solanke play with issues before, so kind of, again, he's not a transfer out for me because I think game week 6 onwards I want him in the side, so I will just bench him this week and transfer out Nkunku for someone else, and really go from there. If as I say, if he is out, and then that would just mean a switch to a 3-5-2 with Nkunku's replacement going into that midfield. So yeah, really tasty look at game week 3. I think there is a lot of people wildcarding, so I am expecting, if I am to get a green arrow, it will probably be another small green arrow potentially. But I'm happy to just keep building the ranks while people are using chips and thingies like that at the moment. But then there is always the chance of me playing my wildcard. The reason why I would play my wildcard, just quickly, is to restructure the team slightly. So the defence needs more money putting into it, I think. That money is currently tied up probably in one of the forwards and Bruno Fernandes. I would like Trent. I would like at least one Arsenal defender, especially for game week 6 onwards. I think if I don't wildcard, I'm almost betting against Arsenal in 4 and 5. Against, I think they play Spurs and City in 4 and 5, so I'm kind of betting against the Arsenal defence in those 2 fixtures. And if I don't wildcard, I'm also betting against potentially Liverpool, depending on what I can do with my transfers to get Salah in for the next couple of games. So yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons why I could wildcard. I don't necessarily think it needs a wildcard. I'm just about covering the fires, not putting them out fully. They're still burning, but the fires are being maintained at the moment, so definitely on the edge of a wild card, I think. On the Arsenal assets, I think if I did wild card, I don't know whether I would go 2 Arsenal defenders and Saka or 2 Arsenal defenders and Havertz, with the news that Jesus is going to be out for at least a little while. I know they've kind of said it's not as long as first feared, but with the pretty much guarantee that Havertz is going to be number 9 moving forward, there is a chance I could go Raya, Gabriel and Havertz, because that just kind of looks really good at the moment. While Saka is in there, it would mean I could potentially swap that premium midfield to... I could potentially have a premium midfield that included Palmer, Son, and who else am I missing? And Salah. So I could go Salah, Son and Palmer in midfield, with Havertz as one of my 3 Arsenal assets, which is really interesting. If you were to wildcard for the guys in the chat, who would be your 3 Arsenal? I'm assuming everyone would go triple Arsenal at the moment. Who would be your 3 Arsenal players to really to nail down on a wildcard, if wildcarding this week? Because I think that would be really interesting to see whether people would just... I think it's probably going to be Saka, Gabriel and Raya. Okay, so Thomas says Saka, Havertz and Raya, so just the 1 Arsenal defender and the 2 attackers. Really interesting, I think, to get Saka. Maybe Saka and Havertz is the way to go, with just one defender, and that being Raya, because he is the cheapest way into that Arsenal defence at the moment. Raya, Saka and Havertz. Rivers said the same. I thought everyone would be double defence. I thought everyone would be Raya and Gabriel or Saliba and then Saka, to be honest. That's quite a surprise that you 2 guys have kind of answered first and said two attackers, double up on the attack, and then just go single defender. That's really interesting. Lots to think about here, guys, and lots to kind of chat through, I think. Really interesting. Arsenal attack so fluid. Yeah, Arsenal attack is fantastic. They are great. Watching them's kind of a real joy. Yeah, River, I think you have been listening to Gian too much after he was on my Gameweek 1 guest session stream. I think everyone who listened to that stream couldn't come away from there and not be really confident about Arsenal. Obviously he was really bullish about them, and in Gameweek 1 they returned, so everyone, I think, since then is kind of listening to what Gihan's got to say, and he is really bullish on Arsenal. Saka and Havertz seem like a no-brainer on wildcard. Defender is dealer's choice. Saka and Havertz. See, I haven't... I'll be honest, I'll go on to my wildcard 3 team in a moment. I haven't looked at putting both of them in a side. To be completely honest, I thought 1 Arsenal attacker is the way to go. Yeah. If you go Saliba and Gabriel, you might not be able to afford Trent. That's true. I think so. The wildcard team I've built, I'm going to show you in a second, has got Trent and double Arsenal defence. I'll show you where it's got its pitfalls really, but I really like the side. So, would I want Arsenal before game week 6 though? No, is the ideal scenario. I probably wouldn't want Arsenal defence before game week 6. I think Brighton at home, obviously could see them scoring despite it being at the Emirates. Brighton have looked really good so far. They then go to Spurs, I think they go to Spurs, and then are away at Man City in game week 5. Or the other way around, I'm not too sure which way those fixtures fall. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, so Tottenham and Man City are both away. So yeah, could see them conceding in both of them games. But when I say that out loud, can I see Arsenal going 3 games without a clean sheet? Probably not at the moment. Could I see them coming away with a clean sheet from Brighton, Spurs, and then conceding at City? Yes, so that's 2 in 3. Could I see a world where that Man City game is 0-0? Yes, probably. There could be a really cagey game, and I could see them. My money would be on kind of 2 clean sheets out of the next 3, so Brighton, Tottenham, and City. So I think in an ideal world I wouldn't want them till game week 6, but if I was wildcarding now, I couldn't not select 2 Arsenal, or 3 Arsenal players, sorry, and 2 of them in my mind would need to be defenders. There is probably an argument to say that maybe double attack is better because of the fixtures coming up, because Brighton might concede goals. Again, while they weren't worried by Everton so much in game week 1, we did see United create some chances against them this week, so potentially Brighton could be there for the taking. Spurs, obviously, we know concede games of fun, concede goals for fun, sorry, and City always seem to concede some type of goals. I don't know how City do it, but they always seem to find a way to concede. So yeah, I think, while I don't think it's ideal to be selecting 3 Arsenal before that nice running game from game week 6, if you wildcard in game week 3, you can't not have three Arsenal players in your side. So Zach in the chat there said City and Liverpool are the only teams Arsenal might struggle with. I think that's true, but do I think they could concede against a few other teams? Yeah, I do think they could. Teams are getting much better attacking. Arsenal are getting much better at defending though as well, so they are clearly at this point the best defence in the league, and definitely one to back. Spurs might be on the verge of 2 bad losses back to back, potentially. Who knows? I think Brighton will score against them. It's Danny Welbeck. He loves scoring against his old clubs. I think it's quite funny with Danny Welbeck. I think Brighton have gone out and spent obviously a ton of money to kind of bolster that attack. They've brought Rutter in. They've brought that Grada in, I think, from Mainz, and obviously they've already got Evan Ferguson and a ton of other attacking talent in there. And Danny Welbeck just seems to keep scoring. So yeah, I wouldn't back against Danny Welbeck getting a goal at the weekend against Arsenal. That would be, if I don't wildcard, that might be my most celebrated goal of the weekend if Danny Welbeck scores against Arsenal to wipe out a clean sheet, because as I said, most people will have 1, if not 2 Arsenal defenders at the moment. Newcastle haven't looked that impressive, but I feel like they match up well versus Spurs because of their counter attacks. I think that game's got the potential to be 2-2, 3-3, 3-2, 4-2, 4-3. I think there's goals in that game. I think there will be. I know I've got Porro in my defence at the moment for game week 3. I think he just starts on the attacking potential for that game. I don't see him coming out of it with a clean sheet. But hopefully he can get involved going forward. Because there is going to be goals in that game, definitely. Now, I just wanted to touch on Villa before we go on to my wildcard team, because obviously currently you can see in my Game Week 3 side I've got 2 Villa players. I've got Rodgers and I've got Konza. They were both in there from Game Week 1. I took them away on my bench for this kind of exact moment, really, in Game Week 1. And now, starting both of them, do I like the idea of kind of tripling up on Villa, bringing in Watkins and Rodgers at the moment if I was using transfers? Probably not, just because I want to see how they get on in Europe, and I think Champions League starts in a couple of weeks. So I think Konza's completely nailed in that side. I don't think he misses a minute. I think he is solid. I think Rodgers could become a rotation risk when Champions League starts. Now, Unai Emery is obviously the master of kind of playing Thursday nights and playing at the weekends. but I'm really interested to see if he goes with his stronger sides in the Champions League, and maybe we see some rotation in the Premier League, or whether he does a bit of both, so maybe some rotation in the Premier League and then a little bit of rotation in the Champions League. Going to be really interesting to see how Villa get on. We've seen at the weekends, obviously, Watkins come off early. Do I think in this period of Champions League starting that Watkins will be worth his price tag? Probably not, but I understand why people are going to him because the fixtures are really good. He's going to get chances, as we've seen at the weekend, and it's just whether he can take them or not in the minutes that he's on the pitch. But I do think he will continue to be managed, especially when Champions League starts. Could I see a world where Duran plays and starts a game during that Champions League run? Yes, I could. So yeah, Watkins kind of is not someone I'm really looking at, even on WILDCARD, to be honest, despite the fixtures being that good. But yeah, I think there's only one or two. Even Leon Bailey for me, I think he's going to be a good asset this year at his price. But again, kind of a wait and see. For Champions League, now we got the news today that Matty Cash is going to be out for around a month, I think, is what the rumour timeline was. So guys in the chat, correct me if you guys have seen something else, but I think around a month, they said, from the stuff I seen, for Matty Cash. And they've got a 4 million starting right back at the moment, who I think Emre has spoken positively about because he wants Konza to play as a centre back. So yeah, 4 million option there. If anyone is wildcarding and looking for a cheap option for the next few weeks, then definitely I think the 4 million right back for Villa is an option. I'm not even sure how to pronounce his name, so I'm not gonna have a stab at that. Let's have a little look. Let's see if we can find him. Yeah, I'm not gonna have a go with that. Nedeljkovic, is it? Nedeljkovic, 4 million, potentially starting right back for Villa. Good fixtures coming up, and I think by all accounts from what I've seen from Villa fans, he's absolutely rapid, so should be fun watching. And yeah, definitely one to consider for those wildcarding or looking for a £4 million defender for the coming weeks. And then let's have a little look. So let's go to, let me bring my wildcard 3 team up, and let me see. Let's see if we can bring the wildcard 3 team up, and then let's go from there, guys, because I think there's going to be some surprises in here for everyone. But again, let me see. I'm going to have to mess about with this to make this big enough for your screens to see. Bear with me for 1 sec. Let me pull this together for you. So now I just kind of pulled this together, so there might be 1 or 2 tweaks that I'd like to make, but this is probably something that I would go with, I think, at the moment. So let me talk you through it. Raya and the 4 goalkeeper in there, non-playing goalkeeper for the bench, so it will be Raya starting every week. The back 5 in there is Davis, Gabriel, Trent, Nedeljkovic, who we've just spoke about, 4 million for Villa, Wan-Bissaka, Smith Rowe, Salah, Palmer, Rodgers, Son. Bear with me 1 sec, guys. Yeah, Palmer, Rodgers, Son, and then up top would be Pedro, Havertz, and Solanke. Any thoughts on this wildcard draft? Tell me what your thoughts are, what you would change potentially, what your wildcard drafts are. I think Zach has just mentioned in the chat there that he sent me a wildcard team. Zach, I will see if I can pull that up for you in a moment. I'm still working on the tech side of this stuff, so let me see if I can pull it up for you in a moment, and we'll chat through it towards the end of the stream. If we can, I'll have a little look and see if I can give you any feedback on it. But any thoughts on this, guys? Maybe the Wan-Bissaka pick. He is obviously slightly different to what some people would probably pick in there at that 4.5, but I do think he is a good pick, potentially long term, and that's why I've picked him. He's in there to kind of sit there and be on the bench for a few weeks while Leif Davis has got fantastic fixtures. And yet, what are your thoughts? Talk to me. Let's see what changes you make. You can all tell me it's a great wildcard team if you like, and then we can obviously just move on, and I'll wildcard and then I'll score tons of points this weekend. I think I'll be really interested in hearing that from you, if that's what you want to tell me. Let's have a little look. So Sam says, like the Wan-Bissaka one, could do Kilman also. Kilman is definitely an option. I think the reason why Wan-Bissaka is in there is because I think he will be a bonus points magnet when West Ham kind of nailed down that starting 11. I think he was always decent when he played for United. So yeah, really kind of interested in Wan-Bissaka really, and I think him or Kilman are really good. Everyone is starting to say that no City. Everyone's pulling out the fact I've got no Man City in there at the moment, which is the probably the standout at the moment for everyone. Let's see if there's a few others. Okay, let me see if I can talk you through what my plan would be for this week if I do decide to wildcard, and then you guys can kind of tell me. So again, this is dependent on kind of Solanke being fit, so don't we have got options on the bench this time, guys. We have got options on the bench, so I think you guys should be able to see that now. I'm just going to take over my title there, but this is more important. Wildcard 3. Make sure that fits. So we've got Raya in goal, Trent, Gabriel, Davis starting, so that would be my back 3 and goalkeeper this weekend. Midfield 5 would be Smith Rowe, Son, Palmer captain, Salah away at United, Rodgers against Leicester, Solanke and Havertz. Now if Solanke isn't fit, Nedeljkovic would just come in and I would play 4-5-1 for this week. As I said, the reason for Solanke is I like Spurs' fixtures from game week 6, I think it is. They've got a really nice fixture run, and with this team it would give me the ability to rotate game week 5. So game week 5 they've got Brentford, then United away, Man United away, Brighton away, West Ham at home, Crystal Palace away, Villa and Ipswich at home, up until City in game week 12. So kind of happy to go double attack really from them fixtures onwards. So it only would be really game week 5 where I would look to bench them. Game week 4 when they play Arsenal, but João Pedro's got a really nice fixture in game week 4, so he could start for me against Ipswich at home, and Nedeljkovic has got Everton at home, so both him and João Pedro potentially. I would probably start Son, but could bench Solanke again in game week 4. Let's have a little look. So people have been slating my wildcard draft. I'm only joking. Let's have a little look. No Haaland, in fact no City at all. Team is good but no City attackers. Okay, that's a bit of a running theme. The reason for the no City attackers is I would like Foden. So my idea is potentially in game week 6, depending on who is performing and who isn't, if I want to stay with Spurs double attack from game week 5 onwards, I could stick with them and do Salah down to Foden, potentially freeing up some extra money. to allow me to probably upgrade a midfield spot. If I don't want to keep Spurs double attack, I would do Son to Foden from game week 6 probably. I don't like City defence. Even Gvardiol I'm not a big fan of. Rico Lewis is obviously going to probably be out soon for Walker. And then, yeah, just the centre-backs are a minefield. I love having Haaland in my side. Obviously, I've currently got him in there. I just think if the midfielders are where it's going to be at this year, if they can even come close to matching Haaland on a weekly basis, 3 premium midfielders plus Trent, and then Havertz if he's going to consistently play in that number 9, I think that is just outweighs having no Haaland. So I would look to get a City midfielder in there from game week 6. This team does roll, no injuries and no fires obviously. This team could roll all the way up to game week 6 really before I needed to make any changes, which I would then be looking to bring in City attack, which would probably be Foden if he's nailed by then, if not KDB, and if none of the midfielders are nailed, I wouldn't go back to Haaland probably. I would look to, maybe I could go back to Haaland, but it just isn't there really. I think I'd have to go down Salah to a 5 million and Solanke up potentially, and that's if the price is right for both. So Solanke up to Haaland would be 7.5. Yeah, Salah down would be 7.5 to a 5 million. And I could do a double change there to Haaland and a 5 million. But again, that pretty much then guarantees that I've got to play at least. I don't think I could. I've got to play Rodgers every week and another 5 million midfielder, or I've got to play João Pedro or a defender, 4.5 defender. So not really sure on that, but I think I'd just reconsider City attack after Arsenal. I think game week 6 City have also got Newcastle, I think. So I'm kind of happy to see through Arsenal at home in game week 5 and Newcastle away in game week 6, and then in 7 kind of reassess. So I think Liverpool's fixtures, I've got Bournemouth at home game week 5, Wolves away in game week 6, and then we'll have Crystal Palace away in game week 7, but then with Chelsea and Arsenal to come in 8 and 9. So I don't know, potentially could reassess, but I think in this next kind of 4 weeks, no City attack with the fixtures that Palmer's got, that Salah's got, and Arsenal have got, I think this could be the way to go. What someone said there. Changing the lineup would be Nedeljkovic instead of Davis this game week. I think Fulham will score 100%. Yeah, potentially. Obviously, Smith Rowe would be starting for me with this team. So Davis, I don't know whether I'd like to play Davis against Smith Rowe, because I do fancy Smith Rowe to score. So yeah, Nedeljkovic may come in for Davis. But either way, really comfortable with having either of them starting. The only problem would be if Solanke isn't fit, I wouldn't want to start João Pedro, so I would probably end up playing both Davis and Nedeljkovic and benching Solanke. Let's have a look. Zach said also Son plus Solanke. I think I'd go with one Solanke and Saka. Yeah, so as I said, Zach, I think for me in this team, I'm happy having Havertz as the number 9 with Son as the extra premium, and with a view to moving Son to a Man City midfielder once we know whether Foden's nailed. If Foden isn't nailed, then I don't think I'd go to any City midfielder, because I think once Champions League starts, I think KDB will be managed. Because I do think Pep wants to potentially, if he's going to leave at the end of the season, I think there's a chance he wants to go out with a bang, and that probably means playing KDB in as many games as possible, and then bringing him off towards the end. So yeah, it's really, if I wildcard, it's kind of Foden or bust for me with Man City attack, and that would kind of be where it's at, but Son or Salah would be the one who's sacrificed for that come game week 7 probably it will be, I think 7. So yeah, definitely one to look out for. Sam said, what did Sam say? I'm buying Wan-Bissaka in future after what Alex said. Don't buy Wan-Bissaka because what have I said? I just wanted a West Ham defender in there. It could be Kilman. Wan-Bissaka, I think is Emerson 4.5 as well from West Ham, the left back, so let me just have a little look. Where's Emerson? Yeah, Emerson's also 4.5. Wan-Bissaka 4.5. Kilman 4.5. Yeah, so any of them I think are decent options. I just like Wan-Bissaka. He was good on bonus points at United, and I think that normally tends to translate over to teams once they move, as long as the minutes stay the same, really, because they tend to be involved. Let's have a look. Tom said Muniz hat-trick needed for me. I'll be honest, I think I was speaking to a couple of guys on Twitter, and Thomas, forgive me, you might have been in the chat, but I'm not a massive fan of Muniz at Fulham. I wasn't keen on people moving for him after game week 1. I think for me that Fulham tack is going to really struggle. I just think consistently we've seen over a number of years in FPL that Iwobi and Adama Traore are poor creators of goals and kind of assists and taking chances when they get them. So Muniz is an option for me. I think he's going to need a lot of chances to be able to deliver on I know he's only 6 million, but there are some good options down there, and yeah, I'm just not as high on him as some other people are now. I think he's got a chance in those lower down fixtures to kind of maybe grab a goal and that against Ipswich and teams like that, but I just think he's not a good option. The reason I think he could be a good option, just to play devil's advocate to myself really, is I think Smith Rowe being in there, if his minutes continue to go up, so if we see Smith Rowe starting to get 80 minutes, I do think he could really benefit that Fulham attack. But while his minutes are being managed down in the 60s and there's no kind of guarantee of that going up, and while Jimenez is still a threat to Muniz's minutes, because I think last year in the Premier League I think he averaged maybe like 70 minutes or something like that. It wasn't a great amount of minutes for Muniz that he was kind of getting every week really. And obviously people have talked about penalties. Pereira was supposed to be going, I don't know if he still is, but whether if Muniz gets penalties, then he's certainly an option. But yeah, I think last year he made 18 starts, Muniz, and played less than 1,600 minutes. So yeah, that would suggest his minutes were kind of managed. Or not even his minutes were managed, because I don't think he's a fitness risk. I think Silva just enjoys bringing Jimenez on, really. So yeah, maybe Smith Rowe is the key to that Fulham side, but yeah, Iwobi and Traore as your kind of creators don't fill me with confidence. So Muniz is a wait and see for me, and kind of see if that Fulham attack picks up, but we'll see. And then let's have a little look. So Zach has sent me a wildcard team on Twitter, so let's have a little quick look at this. Let me pull it up. So it's Raya in goal, Trent, Pau Torres, Ben Johnson, Lewis Dunk, Porro, Salah, Smith Rowe, Palmer, Rodgers, Ahmad, Muniz, Haaland, João Pedro. Looks good to me, Zach. I think potential only changes for me. Obviously, I think Ben Johnson might not. I've got Ben Johnson in my obviously my non-wildcard side at the moment. My normal side for game week 3 is on the bench for me against Fulham. I don't think he's the pick of the 4 million defenders. I think if I was looking long term, I would go to Sepp van der Berg at Brentford, who's just signed from Liverpool, 4 million. I imagine he's going to go into that Brentford side and start. Based on the money they've spent on him, he would be my long term pick. They've got some good fixtures from game week 6 or 7 onwards, I think, Brentford. Pau Torres, like the Villa pick, again, could be Konza. If you wanted to save 0.5, he could be Nedeljkovic, but potentially he's an issue waiting to happen. Trent and Porro are solid. Midfield, Salah, Smith Rowe, Palmer, Rodgers, all solid picks. Ahmad at 5 million for me is a potential problem. I just don't see him nailing down that right wing spot for long. I think in both games we've seen Garnacho come on and mix things up. So, guys in the chat, if there's any thoughts on Ahmed's spot in that United side, I think he again is a transfer out waiting to happen. And then up front, it was Haaland, João Pedro and Muniz. So again, Haaland and João Pedro, great picks. Don't think there's any problems there as long as João Pedro's minutes continue to stay where they're at the minute. And Muniz, as I said, I think he's a fair pick. I think he's an okay pick at 6 million. Do I think he's going to be one to rely on? Probably not. I think people misremember what he did last year. I think he had a good spell when he came in, and I think he was 4.5 last year. Not really sure what his price was. Let me have a little look. I'm sure it was like 4.5 or 5 million last year. Yeah, so it was 4.5 million at the start of the season. And he finished on 4.3 million. So I think he was highly owned initially because he was cheap and he was scoring goals and starting for Fulham, but he didn't have the greatest end to the season, and obviously he finished the season at 4.3, so you can see there was a mass selling there. So I think he's a fair pick, but yeah, no more than that. So definitely one to consider. And Eddie Nketiah, maybe. I think there's obviously looks like he's going to Crystal Palace. I think he's 5.9 million at the moment. Potentially, let's have a little look. Where is he? Yeah, Nketiah's 5.9 at the minute. Looks to be going to Crystal Palace. Maybe Mateta's on his way out as well. I've seen some talk of him wanting Champions League football, so potentially we see some movement there. Could he get that starting position for Crystal Palace? And if so, could be a really good option. Sam says João Pedro is the man. Any 5.5 outscores him, and I owe Alex a free shirt next year. Sam, the funny thing is, I actually agree with you on this. I do think he'll be the highest 5.5. I'm just really wary of his minutes at the moment. I think Brighton, obviously, as we've mentioned, are signing a ridiculous number of attackers. Maybe he is the key that will get 90 minutes or near enough every week, and if he does, he's head and shoulders above the other 5.5 forwards. I just think for until we know his minutes are nailed, there's probably more secured options. But yeah, let's wait and see on that. Garnacho will surely start. He's United's best attacker. River, I agree. I think Garnacho in that United side is a must. As soon as he's fit enough to start, he's got to be in there. So I was surprised he didn't start at the weekend, to be honest. And he's looked definitely the most lively player for United. Really, I know Fernandes has been up there with the expected goal involvement, but Garnacho, when he's come on, has definitely looked the best for United. So yeah, guys, while I've got yous, if you haven't subscribed or liked the stream yet, can you give us a thumbs up on the stream and give it a like? And if you can, once the stream's finished, drop us a comment on there. Even give us a share on Twitter. And some positive feedback. It's always nice to get some feedback from you guys. Now, also, just as a bit of a note, I am going to try and record a couple of videos this week, pre-recorded videos to talk about team selection, maybe a wildcard 3 if I do go down that route. And yeah, going to try and start putting out some pre-recorded content. So if there's anything you guys would like to see, whether it be kind of weekly videos about the best players to buy, sell, wildcard videos, free hit videos, team selection videos, stuff like that, you guys let me know. I'm going to obviously keep the streams going, but any questions that you guys have got or any content you'd like to see, definitely obviously find me over a DM, mention it in the chat, in the comments, and I'll try and get some videos out that you guys want to see, not necessarily what the other content creators put out, but definitely try and get some videos, some pre-recorded videos. I think I might have nailed the editing side of things, so that's going to put me in good stead. Thomas has said Fernandez is paying me one too many times. Bruno to Mberno, done deal. Have you done Bruno out this week? Is that already done? Early transfer, boxed off, nice and early. If that is, I think that's a real, yeah, done. Bruno out and Bermo in. Who've Brentford got this weekend? Brentford have got a nice fixture, haven't they? Southampton, is it? Southampton at home. Brentford got Southampton at home this week. Someone in the chat tell me. I'm going to pull the fixtures up. Yes. Do we think Tony stays? Does Tony stay? Does he go? Oh, good stuff, guys. Thank you. I know I managed to pull the fixtures up in time. But, yeah, not sure on him, Bermo. As he's definitely someone I'm watching. If I do wildcard later on, I think if I wildcard around 6 or 7, he's going to be a no-brainer in my side, I think. I kind of just want to wait to find out if Tony's going or not. I think Tony goes. He's not been in any of the squads. Tony goes, in my opinion. And Bermo should be on pens and the talisman. Yeah, if Tony goes, I think in Bermo at 7 million, he'll be in everyone's squad come game week 6 or 7. Again, I think they've got a nice fixture swing in there somewhere. Let me have a little look. Someone's going to tell me anyway, probably in the chat before I get there. But let's see. So, game week 6. Game week 6. West Ham at home. Wolves at home. Man United away. Ipswich at home. Fulham away. Bournemouth at home. Everton away. Leicester at home. Wow, what a run of fixtures. Up until game week 14. When they've still got Villa, Newcastle and Chelsea, which I wouldn't be afraid of playing. And Bermo and Van der Berg. Great shout by River. Yeah, see, I'll tell you what, and Bermo and Van der Berg in a game week 6 wildcard would look fantastic. Game week 6 wildcard, hey. Maybe I'd start looking at some squads there and compare that to the game week 3 sides and see how different they are and what we'd go for. You definitely got me thinking. Spicy. It is spicy, Sam. Spicy picks in Bermo and Van der Berg on a game week 6 wildcard. But yeah, right, I'll have a little look at the game week 6 wildcard before I pull the trigger. Right, guys, as I said, if you haven't already, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, give us a follow. Most of you follow me on Twitter anyway, but I am on Instagram and slowly going to start putting out TikTok videos. I know River's not on TikTok. I don't think he's too cool for TikTok. But yeah, give us a follow on all the socials and join the mini league if you haven't already. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you on Thursday for game week 3 guest sessions. Who the guest is still a surprise at the moment, so that'll all be revealed in the next couple of days and we'll go from there. So thank you very much for joining tonight, guys, and I will catch you on Thursday. Speak to you later.